last slide that you saw should have been this one where we started talking about y equals mx plus b is the standard linear function. And we talked about how if the plumber or the electrician or whoever comes to your house, you can say they charge you an hourly rate plus the flat rate that they charge you just to come out and diagnose what your problem is. So every linear equation has to end up being written in the form of y equals mx plus b. That's where we left off at. This next slide that we're going to do gives you a different formula to use to create that y equals mx plus b equation. So here is the next actual formula that you will need to create an equation. In the previous one, they gave you the slope. We said it was $30 per hour. That was the rate. So if you see something that says the rate is, that's your slope. If they tell you there's a flat fee that they're going to charge you, that's your y-intercept. But what if they don't give you that information right up front and they're saying, I'm going to give you something else and you got to figure out how to create a y equals mx plus b equation. So here is what we call the point slope formula. So let me pull this screen down so you can actually see the tip top of it. There's the point slope formula. That's the name of that particular formula. So, based upon what it's called, if it's the point slope formula, what you think you're going to need to use this formula? A point and a slope. In order to use this formula, you need a point and a slope. So that means where you see m is our slope, right? I'm going to plug a number in here. Where you see x1, y1, I'm going to plug numbers in for that point. So it's asking you to create the equation based upon the information that they're going to give you. So let's look at the first one. Here's the first equation that we're going to practice. Did they give us a point and a slope? Yes, they gave us a point and a slope, and we're going to actually walk through how they use the equation, the point slope equation. Let's put this in. So here is the formula that I'm writing on the board in black. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we have three things to fill in. You got to fill this in, and that in. All right, you said I have a point, right? Well, here's my points. We label them. Here's my x1, here's my y1, and here is my m. I just labeled them so I can just plug them in. So I'm literally just going to put them in the place of what you see I have circled. So again, for my y1 is 6, my slope is 1/4, and then my x1 is a -4. Bring everything else down. So when I say bring everything else down, this y comes down. Does that minus sign come down? Yes, it does. Equal sign, bring it down. First parentheses, the x, that minus sign comes down. So did you notice you got two minus signs? Don't forget that the original formula already has minus signs in it. So if either one of your points are negative, you got to make sure you put those in so that you end up having the 2. Now let's simplify. The goal is to get y by it so on the left side. That's our goal. So I'm going to do step by step. Some steps you may not need, but I'm going to do them anyway just so you have additional steps. So first thing I'm going to do, simplify these two negative signs in between the x and the 4. Positive, so that's going to end up being x plus 4 on the right side. Didn't do anything to the left side, so it's still y minus 6. Next step, distribute, which means multiply 1/4 times x and 1/4 times 4. Didn't do anything to the left side, so that's going to be 1/4 times x, which is 1/4 x, plus 1/4 times 4. You have a choice. You can look at it as, 4 goes in the 4 and the 4 is canceled out. You can put a 1 under it and multiply across the top and across the bottom. Let me erase this and put this here. All right. So here's how I usually like to do it. You're not required to do it how I'm doing it. I'm going to leave it as always. If there's a fraction and a whole number, I'm going to put a 1 underneath it. Then I'm going to multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. All right. So y minus 6 equals 1/4 x. Straight across the top, what's 1 times 4? 4. And 4 times 1, 4. Keep simplifying. Again, remember, these are extra steps that you're not required to do, but it helps when you go back and look at how you got to every single thing in the problem. What's 4 divided by 4? 1, okay? And now, the goal is to get y by it. What should I do to both sides in order to get rid of that minus 6? Add 6 to this side, and come over here and add 6 to that side. So now the minus 6 and plus 6 cancel. Do I have y by itself on the left? Yes. Yes, you do. So you got y equals 1/4 x plus 7. Is that in y equals mx plus b form? That's the equation for the point that passes through, for the line that passes through that point and has a slope of 1/4. This is the formula you have to use if they don't just come right out and give you the slope and the y-intercept. They give you the slope and the y-intercept, you ain't got to do all this, right? You can literally just plug in m and plug in b. If they don't give you the slope and the y-intercept, then you got to go through this process and do the steps that you see for that particular formula. Did we get the same answer that's on the slide? Yes, we did. Next slide. Here we go. So now, this one is type 1. I'm saying type 1 because in the homework they're going to give you different things. Type 1, you are given, I should say 1. All right, here. Type 1, you are given a point and slope, and a slope. This is type 1 of the homework question you might have. They're going to give you a point and a slope. Type 2, they gave you 2 what? Look at what you got. 2 points. So that's type 2. So type 2, you're going to be given 2 points. Given 2 points. Alrighty. So, can I follow this same process? Remember, we need to use this formula. This is called the point-slope formula. So, in order to use it, I need a slope and a point. They didn't give me the slope. They gave me 2 points. Can I figure out what the slope is if they give me 2 points? Yes. So, if given 2 points, you got to go calculate the slope yourself. Okay, so here, type 2, given 2 points, go calculate the slope. What's the slope formula that you're going to use to calculate the slope?
y2 minus y1.
There we go. All right, so here are my 2 points that I got right here. I've got -2, 3, and 4, 7. So here's my slope formula. I've got 7 minus 3 over. Let me put this formula in here. All right, so I've got 7 minus 3 over top of what? 4 minus a -2. Did I write it right? Yep. Which they have on the board already, so you see it. So this is going to be 4 over 6. It simplifies. Can I reduce that fraction 4 over 6?
Yes.
Divide top and bottom by 2. That's my greatest common factor, which gives me 2/3. So now you know the what? You now know the slope. What do you need in order to use this formula again? A point and a slope. Do you have some points?
Yes.
Not 2. You can pick any 2 you want. But since if we label this one x1 and y1, we can still use it, or we can use the other one. It doesn't really matter. So since we labeled this one as x1, y1, we'll go ahead and use those. Here's my formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Remember, I'm going to fill in. These 3 things are going to get filled in. What's in what I circled in red? Alrighty. What am I going to put in the place of y1? 3. The slope. And x1. Drop everything else down. The y comes down. You put that in black. This y comes down. That minus sign comes down. The equal sign. First parentheses, the x, the minus, and then the second parentheses. Now we're just going to solve and get y by itself on the left. All right. First thing I'm going to do, I got 2 negatives inside the parentheses, so it's going to turn into a. Okay, so now I've got 2/3 x plus 2. Over here on the left is still y minus 3. Second, the next step is to distribute, which means multiply 2/3 times everything inside of the parentheses. Didn't change anything on the left yet, so I got 2/3 times x, which is 2/3 x, and 2/3 times 2. 2/3 times 2. Put a 1 underneath it. You don't have to if you don't want to. You know how to do it without putting a 1 underneath it, that's fine. So now, still the left hadn't changed yet, so now I got 2/3 x on the right plus, look, multiply across the top and across the bottom. What's 2 times 2? And on the bottom, 3 times 1 is 3. Alrighty, almost finished. What do I need to do to get y by itself? Add what to both sides?
3.
Add 3 to this side. Add 3 over here to that side. Alrighty. We are almost finished. I cannot leave 4/3 plus 3 like that. I have got to add 4/3 and 3 together. So now you go to your scratch paper and do your fraction math. Alrighty, what's the fraction math that I'm going to need to do? Here it is right here. 4/3 plus 3. Put a 1 underneath it. I need a least common denominator. What's the least common denominator between 3 and 1? 3. So I need this number to become a 3. So I'm going to multiply it by a 3. What you do on the bottom, you always have to do up
To the top.
to the top. So there we go. So now I've got 4 plus, what's on top of this second fraction? 9. Alrighty. And I could actually do one long line here instead of just putting in 2. So now we got 4 plus 9 over 3. What's 4 plus 9? 13 over 3. You have now created your answer. Alrighty. So that's your final answer. That's your y equals mx plus b equation. Is that the same answer that's on the side? Yes. So again, test purposes, what would I be expecting to see on your paper? All of this except, let me say except. If you skip steps, I'm cool with you skipping steps. Just make sure you're right. You're on track for getting it right. Some extra stuff I put in here you don't have to do. Notice how they did it over here on the slide. They didn't show all that work. So you don't have to either. As long as I can see what you were doing and I understand the process of what you're doing, that's perfectly fine. I just need enough on the scratch paper to prove that you knew what you were doing. Now, if you make a mistake, you get the partial credit, but it's according to how much work you put on the paper that shows me what you were doing. All right, so that was type 2 where they gave you 2 points. So let's look at this next one. Here is another type. We'll get to type 3 in a minute. Let's talk about horizontal and vertical lines. Here's the shortcut for horizontal and vertical lines. Can you see, based upon this picture, where the x and y axis are? Or barely? Let me just draw them in so you can actually know exactly where your x and y axis. Here is my y axis. It should be bold. So there is my y axis right there. And my x-axis, whoops, let's write that better. My x-axis is here. So here's my x-axis. Alrighty. The red line happens to be a horizontal line. The blue line is a vertical line. On the homework, it's going to ask you for an equation of a horizontal or a vertical line. Here is the easiest way to do this. You don't have to go through this long process of what we did with the y equals mx plus b. You don't have to do the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You don't have to do any of that. If I ask you what is the equation of this line, I want you to tell me first, what axis did this red line cross? Where does it cross it at? Look at where it crosses. Where does the red line cross the y? Well, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. That's the equation of the horizontal line. That's it for every horizontal line. If I had drawn a red line down here, let me make another one so we can see. Here is my red line right here. There's my red line. What's the equation of that red line? Y equals -2. What line did it cross? No, I'm just saying, it crossed the y where? At -2. So that's the answer. All day, every day. Tell me what line it crossed, what axis it crossed, and where did it cross it at. That's it. You don't have any extra work to do with those. Well, guess what? The same thing happens for the vertical line. So the vertical line is in purple here. What axis does the vertical line cross? It crosses the x. Where does it cross it at? Well, let's count. -1, -2, -3. That should be on 4. Done. Every vertical line is x equals some number. Every horizontal line is y equals some number. So then if I make another vertical line, here's my other vertical line that I'm going to make in blue. Over here at this number. All right? What's this vertical line equation? X equals 4. That's it. There's no extra to do with that. Questions? Those are the easiest two equations to write. Now, in the homework, it's going to give you some data associated with stuff like this. So let me ask you a question. In the homework assignment, it might give you some data. Here's a data table. It'll be horizontal because they like doing horizontal tables a lot. So you might have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and your y values might say 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, and 20. And it says, what's the equation for that? Can I go do the y minus y1 times, you can do all of that, because you got, how many points you got? 5. Go find the what? Calculate the slope and plug into that. Now the question is, when you look at, when you see all the y values are different, when you start graphing this, what is it going to look like? Well, let's graph it and see. Let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 20. Let's say 20 right there. Let's graph it. Aha, so 1 comma 20 is right here, 2 comma 20 is right here, 3 comma 20 is right here, 4 comma 25 comma 20. What kind of line does that create? Okay, it crosses what axis? Where? Whenever these are all the same, it's y equals 20. Well, that's the y, isn't it? Aren't all of them equal to 20? So I'm just saying, if they give you data and all the y values are all the same and they say write the equation, if it's the y value and they're all 20, it's y equals 20. You can graph it so you can see it. I did it so you could actually see the graph of it. If all these y values are the same, when you start to graph it, it's going to be a horizontal line. Does that make sense? Okay? All righty, so next slide. All right, here's where things get interesting that I want to make sure we make a note of before we go to the type 3. How you create your equation given type 3 data. All right, note, there are 2 types of lines we can show you here, parallel and perpendicular line. Now, if you have 2 lines that look like this and just drawing 2 lines on the board, can you tell me that the slope will be the same for both of those lines? Yeah. So if you have 2 parallel lines, the slopes are the same. The slopes are exactly the same. So you don't have to change it. So if I ask you for the slope of this line, you might say it's 2/3. And I say, what's the slope of that line? You're going to say 2/3. If I say write the equation of this line, and then you come back and write the equation of the second line, are they both going to start off with y equals the same slope? Yes. All right, so just kind of hold on to that thought. Let me erase some of what's on the board here. What if you have 2 perpendicular lines? What if your lines are perpendicular? What does perpendicular mean? They intersect at a T intersection or a 90-degree angle. Okay, here is how we usually see those. They usually are written like this. And let's see if I make sure I do it right. There should be a box here. Yeah, it looks like an X. But is this the same? Hold on. Is that and these are these 2 the same? Look at them closely. Are these 2 exactly the same? No, they're not. This does not intersect at a T intersection. So these are not perpendicular lines. They have to create a 90-degree angle, whereas why you see that little box there. These are not perpendicular, the ones I wrote up. That's not perpendicular. All righty, so let's look at this for a second. Remember we talked about uphill and downhill lines? What's the slope of this one? This line right here, let me make this one actually blue. Blue line, uphill. What's the slope, positive or negative? Positive. So that's a positive slope. Red line, downhill. Negative slope. So here's what I need you to remember. Whenever you have perpendicular lines, one slope is going to be positive and the other one's going to be negative. All day, every day.
Is it the same one though? Just opposite?
They're always going to be opposite signs. Always, always, always. They're not going to have the same number, but they'll be opposite signs. They'll always be opposite signs, but they're not going to have the same number. Like if one is 2/3, the other one's not going to be negative 2/3. they're gonna have opposite signs and different numbers. Alrighty, so let's say the slope of this blue line is 2/3. I'm making this up. The slope of that is a positive 2/3. Well, guess what the slope of this one negative slope is gonna be? Negative. We already said it's gonna be an opposite. Flip it upside down. It's going to be the inverse reciprocal. Reciprocal means flip upside down. Inverse means opposite sign. So it's going to have opposite sign, and you got to flip it upside down. So for the red line, the slope is a negative 3/2. Okay, so when are we going to flip it upside down and change the sign? When they ask for what kind of lines? Perpendicular lines. You always have to flip the slope upside down and change the sign. Alrighty, here we go. Next slide, just to make sure you understand what you're getting ready to see in the coming slide. If you see an equation that's written in the ax plus by equals c form, this is called general form. Here's an example of one. I just wrote 2x plus 3y equals 18 on the board. Whenever x and y are on the same side of the equal sign, it's in what we call general or standard form. When the x and the y are on the same side of the equal sign. You got it? So 2x plus 3y equals 18 is in general or standard form. What kind of equations have we been dealing with? How we want ours to be written? Up until this point, we've been looking at them written in what form? In the slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Is this one written in y equals mx plus b? It is not. So can you tell me what the slope of my 2x plus 3y equals 18 equation written like it is right now? Say no. No. Why? Because it ain't written in y equals mx plus b form. You can only tell me what the slope is when y is by itself. Got it? So over here, can you tell me what the slope is for this one that we worked out earlier? 1/4. What's the slope for this one? Can you tell me for this one? No. Not till you get the y by it. So if I give you an equation like that and I say, what's the slope? You cannot say 2. It happens every test. Somebody says, oh, it's 2. Not till you get that y by itself. You can't tell me that it's the number that sits to the left of the x until you get y by itself. Right, so just remember, you've got to get y by itself, and we're going to do one like that. So let's get to it. Type 3 of the types of word statements or word problems that you're going to get in the homework that want you to write an equation or write a function. Type 3, you're going to be given a point and what? What else did they give us?
Slope.
Look at what they gave you. Well, let's read it. Write the equation of the line passing through the point -2, 3 and parallel to the line 5x minus 2y equals 8. Tell me what they gave you. A point and a general equation. You got an equation. They gave you a point and an equation. So type 3. Type 3 of the types of word problems you're going to get, they're going to give you. So type 3, you're given a point and an equation. Well, I got the point, so I'm just going to label my point x1, y1, right? Okay. I need what else to use this formula? I need what else? I got to use this formula. What I need? I need the slope. I don't have the slope right now. Can I figure it out? Yes. You have to take that equation and rewrite it with the y by itself. That means solve for y. So when given a point in an equation, here's what you must do first. First, rewrite the equation getting y by itself. Which is the same thing as I'm saying write it in the y equals mx plus b form. Y by itself. Okay. All right, so let's go do that. All righty, so I've got my equation. My equation is 5x minus 2y equals 8. The goal is to get y by itself. First thing I'm going to do is subtract 5x from both sides. All right, 5x minus 5x on the left cancels out. You're left with negative 2y equals, whenever you come to this right side, always write the part that has the x first. Always write the part that has the x attached to it, the term that has the x attached to it, write it first. So I'm going to do a negative 5, and then 8, is it positive or negative? Positive, so I'm going to put a plus 8. We're trying to get it in the form of y equals mx plus b, right? That's why we wrote the negative 5x first on the right side. I'm trying to get to my y equals mx plus b form. Now, how do I get rid of this negative 2? Divide everything on both sides by negative 2. All right. So here I've got negative 2y equals negative. I'm just rewriting. Divide by negative 2. This is how you get every equation written in y equals mx plus b form if it's not already there. The negative 2's on the left cancel, so you end up with y is equal to, all right, negative 5 divided by negative 2 is a positive 5 over 2? Yes. Okay, so I've got positive 5 over 2x, and positive 8 divided by negative 2 is? Negative 4. Ah, now is it written in y equals mx plus b form? Now do you know what the slope is? What's the slope of the original equation they gave you? So m, which is equal to my slope, equals 5 over 2. Do you have enough information now to use your formula, the point slope formula? Now we're just going to go plug in the slope in our points. Alrighty. So here we go. We've done that part. Here is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I'm plugging in. My y1 is a 3. So here you should label yours. Here's my x1, my y1. So, and my slope we said is 5 over 2, positive 5 over 2. And my x1 is a negative 2. All right, don't you have to bring everything else left down? Yeah, so my y comes down. My subtraction sign after the y on the left comes down. My equal sign comes down. My first parentheses, the x, the minus sign, and my closed parentheses should come down. Let me make sure I put, oh, I should have a negative sign on this too right here. Make sure you've got 2 negative signs inside the parentheses here. If you just put a plus automatically because you knew it was negative, that's perfectly fine. So simplifying, I end up with y minus 3 equals 5 over 2x. And let me put the parentheses. Let me go ahead and add my extra step in, x plus 2. Alrighty, distribute the 5 over 2 to everything inside the parentheses. So now you're going to have y minus 3, 5 over 2, x plus 5 over 2 times 2 over 1. Can you guys see that? Alrighty. We're still simplifying. I haven't changed anything on the left yet. So y minus 3 equals 5 over 2 times x plus, all right, 5 times 2 is 10, right? Okay, and 2 times 1 is 2, so 5 over 2, all right, so I got 10 over 2. Can I simplify that some more? So I've got y minus 3 equals 5 over 2x. What's 5? 10 divided by 2 is? 5. Do I have y by itself yet? Almost. What should I add to both sides? 3. Add 3 to both sides, add 3 over here. Alrighty, we have now gotten to the end. Y equals 5 over 2 times x plus 8. That is the process that you have to do if they give you what? What are you given in this particular example? A point and an equation. And that equation is not written in the right form, is it? No. So these are the steps that you're going to have to do so you end up at that final step there. Now, again, I will repeat, I keep repeating this. I add extra steps in that I write on the whiteboard that you don't see on the slide. And it's still always a good idea for you to take a picture if you're, again, not able to copy everything down as fast as I'm writing. Now, notice it asks you for what kind of equation, because we're dealing with what kind of lines? Parallel line. So, did I need to do anything special with my slope? No, because the slope of parallel lines is the same. So we didn't have to change our slope. Now, in the next slide, guess what it's going to ask you to do? So now, if we go to the next one, same equation, but now you're looking for the perpendicular line.
So then you got 5 over 2 and then
Right.
negative 2 over 5.
Okay, so question, do I need to go and do all of this work with figuring out what the new equation is going to look like? No, we already did that for this one. So we know I got y equals 5x minus 4. That's a good equation. I only did it so I could figure out what the slope was. So do I need a new slope? Well, look at that word.
Well, you need the perpendicular slope.
I need a perpendicular slope. So do I need a new slope?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Because the old slope won't work anymore. Right? All right, so what's my new slope going to be? So you need a new slope, which is equal to what? What's my new slope going to be based upon what the old slope was?
The negative is inverted reciprocal.
There we go. So you got to change the sign and flip it upside down. So here, if you're making notes, and let's put this in red, change the sign, flip upside down. All right, that's where we got that from. Okay. All right, in order to use the point slope formula, you need a point and the slope. We got the new slope. Do we have a point? Yeah, same point we already had. So now let's just work this problem now. So here, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. All righty, so, all right, I still got a 3 here and a negative 2 here, and my slope is a negative 2 over 5. Bring everything else down. Now I'm just going to do the work that we did, just like we did last time. All right, so this is y minus 3 on the left, negative 2 over 5. X plus 2, since the negative becomes a positive 2. Distribute the negative 2/5 times everything inside the parentheses. So you got negative 2/5 x minus 2/5 times 2 over 1. The left didn't change yet. Alrighty, so I've got negative 2/5 x. Alright, I've got a minus sign here, but I've got a 2 times 2, which is 4, and a 5 times 1, which is 5. Almost finished. What should I do to get rid of this minus 3? Add 3 to both sides. Almost finished. The negative 3 and the positive 3 cancel out. So you know when y equals negative 2/5 x. Can I leave that negative 4/5 and that plus 3 like it is right there? No, because it's not y equals mx plus b form. So on your scratch paper, you got some fraction math to do. So on the scratch paper, you have negative 4/5 plus 3. Put a 1 underneath the 3. I need a least common denominator, which happens to be 5. So multiply top and bottom of this second fraction by 5. So now I have negative 4 on top. And this is a 3, guys. I can't tell if that's a 3. Right there. 3 times 5 is? 15. Alrighty. So now I've got plus 15 on top. Alright, a 5 here, 5 here. Alrighty, so now I've got negative 4 plus 15 over 5. What is negative 4 plus 15? 11. Alrighty, so now I've got 11 over 5, and that number goes here. So that's a positive 11 over 5, so that is your final answer. It's in y equals mx plus b form. The slope is negative 2 over 5, and the y-intercept is 11 over 5. Question? If he wants you to leave it like that. In the homework assignment, don't try to change 11 over 5 to a decimal. Leave it just like that. It'll accept it just like that. If it specifically wants a decimal, it'll tell you to turn it into a decimal. But if it does not say change it to a decimal, you leave it just like that. Alrighty. So, do you see the 3 different types of ways they could give you the information in the homework? Alrighty. Now, here's one other thing that I want to point out about this, the second type. They gave you 2 points. Do they have to give you the 2 points that look like this? Not necessarily. So, hint, what if I give you 2 points and one says the y-intercept equals, and let's put this so you can see it, the y-intercept is equal to -5 and the x-intercept is equal to 2. They're assuming that you remember that those are y-intercept and x-intercepts. Are those points?
Yes.
Yeah, they're points that actually exist on the graph. So for this one, I will put a point on the y-axis. For this one, I'll put the point at 2 on the x-axis. They're points. How do you name them? How do you name a y-intercept and an x-intercept point?
0, -5.
Okay, so this one's going to be 0, -5. What's this one going to be?
2, 0.
2, 0. Now you got 2 points. So it assumes that I'm not going to always tell it to you like you think you're going to get it. It's assuming that you're going to remember, oh, my x-intercept and y-intercept, those 2 points. So that's what they're going to want. You're going to have a problem like that in the homework. But it's still 2 points. So just remember, they're either going to give you a point and a slope, they're going to give you 2 points, or they're going to give you an equation and a point. You got it? Alrighty, so here's the one we just did. We finished it. We did get the same answer. Here's the next problem that we're going to finish up, and we'll be done. Everything in here relates back to real life, right? Let me change this slide for a second, just to make sure you guys got this. Anybody else? Because I'm getting ready to erase this so we can write on the board. Do you have everything you want off of that screen? I'm used to having more board space where I can write on multiple boards. We're trying to fit everything on this one board. We got to do what we got to do. All right. Can I erase all of this? Yes? Okay. All righty. So here is the next, so you can read it while I'm trying to erase all of that. Word problem. Everything in this class relates to real life, right? All right, so let's see how. Let's see how we're going to do this for what you see. All righty, there we go. Let's erase enough of this so we can have some space to write. All righty. Based upon what's on the screen so far, let's read the problem, read the word problem. A company charting its profits notices that the relationship between the number of units sold, which is X, and the profit P, the profit, which is P, is linear. They're saying there's a linear relationship between how much you sell and the profit. If 300 units is sold, your results are $4,650 in profit. If 375 units were sold, then it results in $9,000 worth of profit. Write the equation that models this profit. They want you to give me a y equals mx plus b equation. So, you have to look at that problem and say, type 1, did they give you a point and a slope?
No.
Type 2, did they give you 2 points?
Yes.
Type 3, did they give you a point and an equation? Which one do you think they gave you?
2 points.
They gave you 2 points. Can you figure those 2 points out?
Yes.
Tell me what they are.
300 and 4650 and 375 and 9,000.
Perfect. What is that? 9,000. You got to be able to read it and see that they gave you 2 points. Remember, everything in this class is about input and output. Something goes in, something comes out, creates a point. So the input is how many you sold. The output is how much money you made in profit. You got it? So they gave you 2 points. Can I go do this process that's in type 2? Yeah, so what do I do first?
Slope.
Go find the slope. Calculate the slope. So here is my x1, y1, x2, y2. Calculating the slope. M is 9,000 minus 4,650 over 375 minus 300. Alrighty, what is that going to be? Is that 4,350 on top? Somebody do the math on the calculator. 4,350 over 75. What's the final answer? Tell me if that's 58.
58.
Okay, all right. So let me make sure I make a point here, because in the homework it's going to ask you, what does this mean? 58 what? They're going to ask you 58 what? Well, on top, what kind of numbers do these represent on top? Look at these. This profit. Profit is written in what kind of numbers? Well, is this units, dollars, pennies? This dollars. So just remember, these are dollars. So here are dollars. What's on bottom? What's the X value represent? Number of units sold. Okay, so here, units sold. So, this is still dollars. This is still units sold. So, this one is 58 what? Dollars per unit sold. So, the slash or the division line should be the per units sold. So, the homework is going to say 58 what? And you got to tell it $58 per unit sold. All right, so that just means each one of them costs $58. Or each one is going to profit $58, I should say. You're going to make $58 per each one that you sell. So now we just figured out the what? Slope. Have we figured out our equation yet? No. Do I have to go do my y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1? Yeah. Alrighty, my y1 is what?
4650.
4650 is my y1. Alrighty, so 4650 goes here. What's my slope? 58. And my x1 is 300. Alright, I just plugged in my three things that have to go into this formula. I'm just dropping everything else. It's 58, that's parentheses x. Now I'm just going to distribute. I'm trying to get y by itself, right? Okay. So I'm going to multiply 58 times x and 58 times 300. So I end up with 58x. What's 58 times 300? Somebody do it on the calculator.
17,400.
17,400. Okay. I need to get y by itself. What should I add to both sides?
4650.
Yeah, 4650 to both sides. Negative 4650 and the positive 4650 cancel on the left. You end up with y equals 58 times x minus, what is that? 12 what? I'm trying to make sure I'm doing the math in my head. 12. Is that 12,850? Somebody check my math.
12,750.
12,750? Did everybody get that?
Yeah.
Check it for me, is right? Okay, so that is the equation or the function or the model, the equation that we created for the information that's from that paragraph or that word problem. Remember, you got three different types. They have to give you something to figure out how to solve this problem. Not so bad, right? You got to figure out what you're given so that you can follow the steps on your notes. Here is the last one, and then we'll be done. We got 7 minutes. All righty, let's read it together. A business uses straight line depreciation to determine the value of an automobile over a 5-year period of time. Suppose the original value, which is when t equals 0, is $26,000, and the salvage value, which is when t equals 5 years, is equal to 1,000. So t equals 0 is when you just bought it, you just signed the paperwork, and you're getting ready to drive it off the lot. So salvage is the value of it. So when t equals 0, you just signed the papers, the salvage value, which means the value of the vehicle at that time, is $26,000. 5 years later, when t equals 5, that vehicle ain't worth but $1,000. It's a sad thing, isn't it? But here we go. Do you have type 1, type 2, or type 3 type of problem?
Type 2.
Type 2. Yes.
That's not right.
That's not, oh, what did you,
It's 22050.
here?
Mm-hmm.
220, wait, you have a negative and a plus.
Okay.
So you should make sure you put that one in as a negative 17,400. All right, back to this one again. You said you got type 2. I agree with you. Tell me what the points are that you have from type 2. What you got? We're going to erase this part since we know we got a type 2 problem.
0, 26,000, and 5 and 1,000.
Aha, so we got a 0, comma, $26,000. And then I got a what? 5, comma, 1,000. There are your 2 points. Now, instead of calling them X and Y, what are they calling these variables? T is your years, right? So here's your T. T is here. And in the place of the dollars, what are they calling? What variable? Where is my variable for that one?
Yes.
S. You see how they said the model, the value S? So they're calling it S here. Alrighty, so they're using T and S instead of X and Y. You gotta write your equation using T and S if they say use T and S. Okay? Alrighty, so let's go and do what first? What I gonna do first?
Find the slope.
Find the slope, because they gave us 2 points, so we gotta go find the slope. So M is gonna be equal to, so here I've got 26,000. Subtract 1,000 over 0 minus 5. Alright, so now I'm gonna have 26,000 minus 1,000 is 25,000.
You'll get $5.
And over 5. What's that amount again? 5,000? Alright, tell me what this means in English. This is dollars, y'all, up here on top. What's this number on the bottom? These are dollars. What's this 0 minus 5? Years. Okay, so over here I've got $5,000 per what?
Year.
Per year. A loss, because it is again, we read the problem, a business uses a straight line depreciation. Again, remember one of the things I said, you gotta know what every word in the word problem means. Straight line depreciation. Depreciate means something loses value, right? Straight line means it loses the exact same amount every single year. So in this particular case, this value loses $5,000 worth of value every single year.
Should it be negative?
Would you keep
And-
the negative?
And should it be negative?
Yeah.
Where's my mistake
On
at?
the bottom.
Aha! This should have a negative sign right there. So that should have been a negative $5,000 per year because it's a loss. It's depreciating. Is that uphill or downhill curve? Downhill is depreciating, so it should be going down. Alrighty, so do I have enough information to do my y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 formula?
Yes.
Okay, alrighty. Alright, let's start plugging some stuff in. So I've got 5,000 as my slope. And my x1, y1, I'm going to use 0 and 26,000 up here. Instead of x and y, they call them t and x. But while we're putting it into the formula, we're going to leave it as x1, y1. I'll come back and change them to t and s in a minute. So now I've got my x1 is 0. My y1 is 26,000. Alrighty, so now I've got y minus 26,000 equals 5,000. And that's a negative 5,000. Y'all keep me on my toes. That's a negative 5,000 for the slope. Times x minus, alrighty. Alrighty, this one's actually fairly easy. Y minus 26,000. Well, what's x minus 0? X. Or you could distribute it and say negative 5,000 times. Here you could do it this way. You could distribute and just say negative 5,000 times x is negative 5,000x. And negative 5,000 times 0 is what? 0. You can do it that way. So now I'm going to do negative 5,000x plus 0 is just negative 5,000x. Alrighty. I need y by itself. Add what?
26,000.
To both sides. There we go. So add 26,000 over here. So the negative 26 and the positive 26 cancel out. So on the left you have y equals negative 5,000x plus $26,000. That is the equation for that information for the word problem. Now, if you type this in decimals just like it is, it's going to mark it wrong. Why?
It's in the wrong order.
Could be in, I could change the order if I want, but it's not wrong. This is y equals mx plus b form?
Yeah.
It is. What else is wrong with it based upon what they asked us to do?
It's not S and T.
Gotta use S and T. So if you type this all day, you be like, I know the answer right. You gotta use S and T because they say you gotta write it using S and T. So T was my X and S was my Y. So now you gotta change this and put S equals negative 5,000 T plus 26,000. Now it's right. So make yourself a note. Use whatever letter of the alphabet for the variables that they tell you to. All right, questions? That is the end of chapter 1.